Annette,
Hi, Philip. How are you?
not bad. You?
Yes, I'm fine, thank you.
Good, good, wonderful.
Anyway, we're here, so here we
Yeah,
are.
yeah, we're
I
here.
just,
Yeah.
I've just seen a message from Rick Davies saying hello.
Oh, yeah, yes, yeah, yeah. Rick's yeah. So
Hi,
yeah,
Rick.
yeah. Rick says hello, hello, Annette. Looking radiant as always. Rick says, and a kiss.
Oh, thank you.
Hi, Ian.
Hello.
Hi, hi, darling. How are you?
I'm fine. How are you?
You're looking great. I'm good. I'm all right. Thank you. I saw
Just
you
all right.
about.
No,
I
I
saw
think
you.
good's better.
What?
I said, you said just all right. I said good is better.
Yes, you're quite right. You're quite right. I saw you about 2 years ago, I think, at one of those signing things, didn't I, in
Yeah,
London?
actually, it was a bit longer than that because it was before the pandemic.
Oh, that's right. Of course, it
Just
must have been.
before.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes. I like your background better than I like mine, but never mind. Now,
Well,
is that
I angled things around to sort of cut out my notice board here in the kitchen and things like that. And the stuff I was ready to cook with, all of that. Oh, better shove that out of the way.
Yeah, right. So who else is up there? There's somebody else up there. Who's that?
Philip.
Is that
Hi,
Philip?
Ian. How
Hi,
you doing?
Philip.
Philip.
Hello. Hi. So are we the only ones on at the moment?
Yeah. So we are. Who's going to be on screen, and everyone else is going to be in the audience, so there's not too many talking heads. So it just
I
makes it a
see.
bit,
Right. So
a
we
bit-
won't see
a
other
bit-
talking heads. We won't see anybody else.
No.
We get
People probably
messages
will.
every now and again.
Yeah. People will
Right.
ask me, have their questions and just sort of general comments, and I will read those out to you as we go along.
Okay. Right. Oh, lovely.
So we're still waiting for some of the audience to log on. So if we just give it a couple more minutes, and then we can make a start. You had a nice week, Ian.
It's all right. It's yes. Thank you.
Where
Yes.
are you? Are you in London
No.
or
I'm in California
are you are?
and Los Angeles. Yeah.
Yeah, I just moved back from there.
Have you? Where? Yes.
We
Forever.
were in Carlsbad.
Oh, lovely. That's nice. That's pretty down
It's
there,
very
isn't it?
nice.
Yes.
Yeah,
And have you moved back forever?
I have, yes.
Right.
Yes.
So where are you now? London?
I'm in London. The sun's shining, which is
Good.
very nice. I
Yeah.
sit here watching it thinking, don't go, don't go. Yeah, I miss the climate.
Yes, I think that's the
California.
first thing people say they miss when they move back. Yeah.
Yeah, I do. And my friends that I left there, but
But
you
you've
know,
got a ton
my
of friends
family is
there.
back here. That's why I came. My daughter
Yeah.
and her family. And
That's what I miss. You see, I've got children, grown children with grandchildren in England, and I only see them once a year. And sometimes when the pandemic, I've missed seeing them for 2.5 years.
I know that happened to me too, because I used to come back all the time, and see. But I thought, no, it's better for me to be over there, here.
Yes.
Where I've got family and
Yes.
still a few friends.
Yes. Right. Good.
Actually, you look around now and there aren't too many friends left.
I know.
know.
It's It's dropping like flies. I see Helmut Berger died the other day, and
Yes.
he was in an episode of The Saint as well. Yeah. I
And Ray, of course.
posted a picture of him and me walking in some Roman ruins. I put it up on Facebook. Yeah.
Oh, right. And of course, Ray Austin.
Of course, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yes. Now he didn't direct the episode you and I were in.
No,
he?
that was Roy Ward Baker.
That's Roy. Yes.
Yeah, whom I loved. I loved
Who I
Roy.
love too. The most wonderfully taciturn, gloomy-looking man in the world, but underneath it all, shrieking with laughter, of course.
But yeah, he was good fun if you get him going. I used to
Yes.
get him going all the time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, Philip. Now, come on, run us.
Yeah. So I think I'm just checking to see if it had anybody that was having any technical issues, and no, I think we seem to be pretty much okay. So yes, we'll make a start. So First of all, thank you very much, Annette and Ian, for joining us to talk about this episode of Turn the Saint. It is very much appreciated. And also, of course, to the audience joining us as well. If you have any questions you would like to put to either of our guests, please do put it in the chat, and I will read it out at appropriate points during the evening. Before we get going on the episode, I have, of course, to acknowledge the very sad passing of Raymond Austin, director, stuntman, you name it. He had so many strings to his bow. I thought it might just be a nice little start just to sort of talk a little bit about Ray, because, of course, everybody here knew him, and no doubtly a lot of the audience knew him as well, maybe from some of the things I did with him as well. So I don't know whether, Annette, you might sort of start us off, perhaps having a couple of minutes of Ray.
I knew Ray from way back when he was a stuntman briefly, and then he became a director. And he directed, I don't know, 2 or 3 things that I was in over the time. But I used to see him from time to time. And then in the last, 10 years or so, we've been in pretty much constant contact, because he found me in America and emailed, and we said hello and everything. And then, we've been in touch. So I was quite, I was quite sad to hear that, because I did one with Ray, one of these with Ray not so very long ago. When was that?
I think it was May, June sort of time last year. It wasn't that long ago.
It was actually just near his birthday.
Yes, his birthday was in December. Right. So yes, it must. I think it was probably in the lead up to that. I mean, obviously, time is, I guess, it's a bit difficult to measure time, isn't it, after a while? But yes, it was quite recent, and he was on good form, wasn't he, when we spoke?
Yes, he was. He was.
Yeah. And of course, Ian, he directed one of your episodes, but also, to speaking to Ray, he did say that he did some uncredited directing on your first episode. So what was essentially the pilot. I think he came in and did a little bit on that as well. What do you remember about working with Ray?
Well, I didn't know him nearly as well as Annette knew him, of course, because I only did really the one main episode and a little bit of another one. But I did like him very much. I do have a nice story about Ray. Is that in the episode he directed, there was a dialogue scene, standing outside the door of my little house, my muse house, with the leading lady. And it was quite a long dialogue scene, and it was very static. And I said to Ray, and this is rare that a director would actually listen to an actor do this. I said to Ray, I just think this is really boring, and I think that we could do it better. And he said, well, what would you want to do? And I said, what would be nice is if we went into the house, because the set was already built, and we've just been handling a dead body, or I have. So if we do the dialogue and we go into the house, I walk straight over to the kitchen, open plan kitchen, wash my hands, dry them off, come back doing all the dialogue, and then we exit again. And he went, okay, we'll do that. That involved a huge reset-up. It involved a huge lighting job. It involved a major rethink of the whole thing. But what was lovely about it was Ray didn't hesitate. He thought it was a good idea, and he just said, "Yeah, sure, great, we'll do it that way." And it wasn't me imposing my will on the scene at all. I just thought it was more fun to do it that way. So I always appreciated Ray for not arguing with me and saying, "Yeah, great, lovely idea. Well, let's do it that way." Yeah, and, that's what I remember. He was a very sweet and dear man, and very, very good at his job too.
Yes, he was. Yeah, he was. Yeah, I liked him a lot, and I liked working with him. And then, of course, there was a long patch where I didn't get to see him at all, because he went to America, did all the stuff over there. And then, of course, we contacted again, which was very nice.
Nice, yeah.
And through that way, I met his wife.
Right.
And it was.
Yeah. Well, I know, Philip, you had something planned, didn't you, for all of us to have a thing with Ray, and I was looking forward to that. So it's sad that that's not going to happen.
Yeah, it's a huge shame. Ray did go through a short illness and wasn't up to doing anything he did actually speak to me a few weeks ago. And he was getting a lot stronger, and he said, we're looking forward to getting started again, and obviously something then happened. So it was one of those things, unfortunately. But
Right.
Ian, you were very kind enough to record a little birthday message for Ray, and I knew he got a big kick out of receiving that. He made the point of singing your praise when he got the message. So yeah, I think it really lifted him up in obviously what was a difficult time for him. So I thank you for doing that. Everyone probably knows that the Ray was a constant contributor to my events. We did 11 in total. He appeared in 3 events just as cameos, just wanting to say hello to old friends. We were having chats in between events and just and became good friends as a result. And he kept me in touch. He kept me informed about how he was doing, and his wife Wendy as well. So a huge loss, of course, for everybody. And it was a big blow, of course. I have written a tribute to Ray that is on my Facebook page, and I won't read it out unless you guys would want me to, but I think a few people probably already read it anyway, and Wendy asked me to put that together. So but of course Ray's work lives on, and obviously Elaine Spooner, who Dennis Spooner's daughter, Dennis Spooner, wrote a lot of things, of course, around the Hopkirk, and she knew Ray very well, and she's in the audience tonight as well. I think we'll dedicate this event to Ray's memory, and I think we should hopefully have a good one. So if we want to make a start, that'd be fantastic. So for those watching along, some people might want to watch the episode while we're talking about it. I'll be doing the same, just sort of guide the conversation a little bit. It's not essential because it'll be sort of a general chat about a variety of things. So if everybody's got the copy of the episode to hand, we're going to freeze on the opening shot, which is the exterior of the prison. I'll just give people 30 seconds or so just to freeze frame on that, and then we'll make a start.
Can you hear me?
Can you just fine? Yeah.
I actually managed to watch the episode this afternoon.
Oh, yeah.
I couldn't remember.
Join the club, Annette. Join the club. I didn't remember it either.
Yeah, Philip sent me a thing and then during the week I couldn't get it downloaded.
Right.
Had all sorts of things going on, but I finally saw it, and I thought, oh yes, oh, did I do that? Oh, I thought I was only in it for 5 minutes. I remembered I had a son, and I remembered Ian Hendry.
Yes.
And I thought, yes, I'm sure that's the episode he was on, because I've got a few things to say about that later. And of course, I knew Ian because I'd worked with him before, and I liked him very much.
Yeah.
He was a terrific actor.
He was a wonderful actor, interesting man. Yeah.
Very, yes. When he was okay.
Yes, when he was sober. That's what we're really talking about, isn't it?
Yes, it is. Oh God.
And he was all the way through the show. He never did anything. He was very professional, I think.
Very professional.
Yeah. All right, so let Philip. What's happening now?
We're ready to make it a start. So I'll do a little countdown for 5, and then we'll all press play together. So 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and play. Okay. So of course the episode opens on you, Ian. This is very much. Did you like doing episodes like this in terms of being very sort of character-driven drama as opposed to those that might have had a bit more of an action feel? Was it nice to do more intimate episodes like this?
Well, it was nice in the sense that I didn't have to learn fight sequences, too many of them anyway. Yes, I mean, the trouble with a lot of these shows kind of mash into one, and it's. I thank you for sending me the link, because as Annette says, you know, it was just another job, and it's hard to remember the details because it was over 40 something years ago. So
Yes, I know.
nobody could remember anything over that long ago.
No.
Yeah.
No. And we mentioned Ian Henry just now. What was it like working with Ian Henry? Ian, first of all.
Very good. I mean, as I say, he had a slight reputation, which is kind of undeserved, I think. Because in terms of professionalism, it was fine. And again, you know, remember for Ian, it was just another job in a long succession of jobs. The man never stopped working. He was one of our best known actors, leading man, you know. And for him, it was come in, 10 days work and go home and do another job, really.
Yeah.
So, but I mean, like most actors that I've ever met, he was highly professional. Came on, knew what he was going to do, did it, no fuss, no demands, no difficulty at all, and I liked him very much. Yeah.
And Annette, do you want to share anything about Ian Henry?
Oh, Ian. Well, I knew Ian from early on, and we did a movie called here we go again. Me with the names. This is my street.
Yeah.
And I liked Ian a lot. We had quite a bit to do together. And he used to bring me, he'd say, want a cup of yeah? Thank you, I'd be nice. So he'd bring a cup of tea. Wasn't tea. It was whiskey.
Really? That's a good
Yes,
story.
really. Luckily, he only put a little into mine. And I sort of sipped a bit. I thought, oh God, I'm damned, because I used to get a bit wizzy quickly. So I thought, really take this very easy. So, you know, and I know that he continued with that, and it got worse. When we were doing this episode, I remember we had to go on a location somewhere. I can't even remember what scene it was for. And we left the studio. And they said, you go with Ian. I said, okay, that's fine. And the driver was waiting. And we get in the car and we're driving off. We had a little bit of a drive to get there. And Ian says, just down here, could you pull up for a minute? And I looked at him. I said, why? He said, I just want to pull up for a minute. Of course, we pulled up at a pub. And I said, no, we're going to go and work, Ian. I think not. So I sat there for a few minutes, sort of, and he was saying, no, it'll be all right. No, I said, don't. He said, yeah. So he got out and he said, I'm just going in for a minute. I said, don't be long or I'll come in and haul you out. And he said, oh, just a minute. Anyway, he wasn't in there for long, but he came out armed. And I said, I don't think that's a good idea. He said, it'll be fine. It'll be fine. No matter what I did, I couldn't. So he had the drink. We got there, and I sort of poured him out of the cab or the car, and he went in. They did the makeup. We got ready for the scene, and like that, he just snapped into the character. I mean, it was extraordinary. And yet, when the scene finished, he was practically falling down.
Wow.
But he could just do that. And I liked him. We got on very well, because he could be a bit difficult sometimes, but we got on well, and I used to try and chat to him a bit and laugh a bit, and you know. But he gave such a performance. That was a lovely thing of working with him.
Yes, it's a very strong performance in this particular episode, and we'll touch on that as we go along. We're currently seeing Annette and Ian in the clothing store.
Philip, are we supposed to be able to see this on our screens as well?
No, because it comes down to a copyright issue where we can't really show the episode. You could, in America, funny enough, Return the Saints allowed, but not in the UK. So it's one of those.
We don't get to see what you're talking about.
Yeah. Well, yeah, we're just in the scene when you first meet each other in the clothing store, which is, I believe, a set in Elstree. Michael Smith, who sent us some notes for this evening, very kindly, so thank you, Michael, did point out that when Ian enters the clothing shop and closes the door, the set wobbles. So either Ian's incredibly strong, or it is a set. So a bit sort of faulty towers. But
I read that, but I forgot to look when I was watching the movie. I'll have to go back and look at it again.
Yeah. So did you both enjoy working in Elstree? Was it a good studio to work in?
Yes, it was a pig for me to get to, because I lived in Wimbledon, and Elstree's right up in North London, and you had to get there traveling all the way through London. So I was very lucky. I had a driver who came and picked me up every morning, and I could just go to sleep or in the back seat or read a newspaper or something. But that's the trouble with it. I mean, the ones to the west of London are a little easier to get to, I think. But Elstree's a nice enough studio. Yeah.
I had to travel from Chelsea.
Yes.
Which is pretty much the same.
Yeah.
And I went backwards and forwards to mostly Elstree for about 12 years.
Right.
A lot of the stuff was done there and sometimes out, but I get into my car and I'd say, okay, we go. And the car would drive itself there, you'd get there at 7 o'clock in the morning or whatever it was. I liked Elstree. I became became a sort of second home almost.
Right.
Yeah, I liked it.
I want to ask you both about your costumes. Just seeing the clothing store, I think it seems an appropriate time to do so. Annette, of course, you play somebody that owns a clothing store, so therefore has to be quite fashionable. Would that have played into the wardrobe that you would have worked with Elaine?
Elaine?
She was the wardrobe lady on this episode. You might not remember her, but
I can't remember the name. I used to know Laura Nightingale and a couple of the others, but maybe she wasn't on this. I think I got on fine with her because I liked what she brought for and she knew that I had pretty definite ideas about certain things, what looked good, what didn't, what was right, what was wrong, and all of that, and color, so I think she did really well with the costumes. I saw it today and I thought, oh, I didn't look too bad, did I?
And what did you think, Ian, of your outfits in this particular episode?
Well, I pretty much hated most of the clothes I had to wear. I think, Matt, the trouble was that they were relentlessly trendy. And because of that, within about 6 months, it was all horribly out of date for me anyway. And I know that Lou Grade, who was our producer, who hadn't really seen anything of it, watched a couple of episodes after we were about a third of the way through shooting, or maybe longer than that. He said, I hate the guy's clothes. So I was rushed off to Savile Row, and we had a number of suits made, which I preferred because the suit doesn't really go out of fashion. But all those terrible flares and polo necks and things, there were things I wore and I thought, oh God, I hate this so much. But I wasn't really in a position at the time to say I didn't like them. If I really hated them, I suppose I could have done. But you look at them now, and they're very in at the time, but within again about a year they were out. So I think it was a mistake, frankly, to dress me in trendy clothes at all. I think they should have done what they did with Roger Moore and simply put him in straightforward suits or sports jackets or something, and just try to avoid what was in at the time.
Yeah, I agree with that. Yes, you're right.
I think with women, with you, Annette, and with the girls, first of all, you had much more say in what you could wear, and secondly, they didn't have that sort of, I don't know, maybe there was.
It wasn't as trendy. The men were very trendy. It was colored shirts, scarves here. The trousers looked great at the time, but I agree with you for the character.
Yeah,
it wasn't right for the character.
No, I didn't think it. He was overdressed. He was overdressed. You shouldn't have noticed his clothes at all, really, I think.
Well, I don't know. I mean, when you have the suits and things, it becomes more or less expected.
Yeah.
And you think, oh, good, it's when they wear something else.
Yeah.
You go, oh, not sure about that. Yeah.
So there's your answer, Philip.
I mean, I don't know whether the intention was to make him a bit more of a playboy compared to Roger Moore's version, and that's maybe where the high fashion kind of sort of might have come into it.
But I mean, there was a particular shop in Jermyn Street that we went to, and where they contributed most of the clothes. And it was very, very top end, very fashionable, very in stuff, you know. And that's where we got most of the trendy stuff, you know. But and the guy was very nice, and it was fun going in there. But I would try and go, could I not wear that? Bob Baker, the producer, would say, no, it's really nice, Ian, it's really good, you're going to look great. And I know, okay, yeah.
We just saw the scene where you're kind of not interrogated, but sort of questioned by the police. Norman Eshley plays Detective George Caulfield. He's also in the episode The Nightmare Man as well. Do you remember working with him, Ian?
Yes, I do very much. Norman's a great old friend, and it was lovely working with him the second time. There was an odd moment because this was Norman's second episode playing the same character.
Yes.
And Roy Ward Baker, the director, said to Norman at one point in a scene we were in together. I can't remember the details of it exactly, but Roy Ward Baker said to Norman, he says, I think you're being a bit nice. Or he said to me, I think you're being a bit nice. Or couldn't you be a bit nastier to him? And I said, oh, Roy, we are actually friends. He's been in an episode already, and there's an established relationship between these two men. And Roy went, oh, would it have been nice if somebody had told me that? But no, Norman was terrific, and he was very nice to work with. A good chap is Norman. Yeah.
Mm. Yes, I remember him.
And do you have any memories you wish to add, Annette, about Norman?
No. I worked with him in a couple of things. I'm sure he was in Randall and Hopkirk, and there was another one that I worked with him in, which I'm not remembering which one it is now, but we had a few scenes. But he was always very pleasant, you know, nice. Yeah.
Good job.
Yeah. And we're currently seeing the scene with Ian Hendry and Michael Ryan as his son. Do you remember working with Michael Ryan?
The boy.
No, the boy, yes, boy actor, yeah.
Yes. Well, I remember the boy. I knew I was a mum and I had a son, but I thought we were only in one tiny little scene.
Yes, it's not much.
There really wasn't a lot, but there was a little bit more. But he was a nice little kid, you know, and we sort of hit it off, and it played quite well, I thought. Yeah, but I liked his scenes with Ian too. I thought the one with Ian where he first introduces himself as his father, I thought it went very well, and it had that sort of hesitancy and strangeness about it, which Ian, of course, provoked.
Yeah. I think
I didn't have much to do with the kid, but when I saw him, I thought what a good actor he was, because he was asked to do quite difficult stuff. It wasn't simply just straightforward being a kid. There was quite a lot of emotional stuff he had to do, and I thought he did it very well.
Yes, I thought so too. Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, we're watching the scene now with Ian Hendry and Michael, and it is a very emotionally difficult scene, and they both play off each other beautifully. Ian Hendry, particularly, the conflicts he has with wanting to perhaps to get his life back and to know his son versus his objective in the episode. I think it really shows how great Ian Hendry was as an actor.
Oh, absolutely, yeah. And it was a very difficult situation when you think about it. I mean, how do you play that when you've got to be, both of you are unknown to each other, yet you're totally bonded, you know, in because of the father-son thing. And I just thought I just thought it went very well. I was surprised actually, and it made me say, "Oh, well, he shouldn't have handled it that way." Well, I don't know if I were, and you know, if you do that, there's something going on.
Yeah, I think it does. It does bring you into the story, certainly.
Yeah.
We're about to see on screen now Rupert Graves' first TV role. He would then go on to most notably be in recently Sherlock with Benedict Cumberbatch and Martin Freeman. He played Detective Lestrade. So this is his first TV role. Do you sometimes know when you meet even an actor that young that they've got a good future, or is it kind of a bit surprising sometimes?
I think it's lovely. I think it's great. I mean, it's nice. It's nice that it was his first television role. It's nice that he went on to become really extremely well known and very, very terrific, lovely, wonderful actor. And yeah, it's rather a pleasing idea. But no is the answer to your question, Philip. One has no idea at all that they're going to go on and do those things. After a look at the scene, he doesn't really have to do very much. He was fine in it, you know. So no one had no inkling that this kid was going to grow up and become a well-known and successful actor.
Who was he in the episode? I'm sorry, I missed a little bit.
He plays the prefect. Sort of helps you find.
Yes.
The schoolboy. I have a little dialogue scene with him outdoors. I buttonhole him and I ask him some questions. And
That's right. Yeah.
Of course, yeah. And then all will go, oh, hang on a second, that's Rupert Graves. Good God, look at that.
Yes, my goodness.
I suppose acting is one of those professions where you don't even know necessarily where your own careers are going. Where compared, you know, so think about where other people are going to go is
yeah. And it's the whole business of meeting people, you know, and not really realizing who you're meeting, you know. Yeah.
I should mention also Reginald Jessup, who played the headmaster. Just a bit of trivia for those watching along. He did appear in some early Doctor Who's with William Hartnell. So there's quite.
Oh, you've frozen.
Quite a bit of an overlap between those that worked on the original Saint and Return of the Saint. And Annette, what was it like coming into this new series and starring as, you know, so used to working with Roger in several episodes, and then obviously working with Ian? Was it sort of
horrible? Poor woman. What a dreadful thing! It was a beastly, horrible experience having worked with Roger Moore, and then coming on to me. My God, how horrible it must have been! Really.
I had worked with you before.
I know.
So I was aware that you were a little different. With Roger, any moment I could get with him, and we'd talk something or other and go into gales of laughter. But I had to approach you a little differently because you were more serious.
That wasn't as funny. That wasn't as funny as Roger. Roger appears to have run the set as a sort of permanent practical joke, as far as from what Bob Baker, the producer, told me. Roger had a lot of fun. Well, of course, the reason why I didn't have a tremendous amount of fun in that sense was that it was my first. It was the first series of what was supposed to be a long-running series that were going to go on for years and years and years. And of course, I had to be on my best behavior. I'm sure Roger, in his first year, was probably quite more serious than later on. But he certainly had a lot of fun, and I was just working really hard and you know, trying to keep it all together, I guess. You know,
it's a hard thing to step into the shoes of someone else who is so done it for so long.
Yeah.
And you know, you had everything right with it. It was different.
Yes, it was just a different show.
It was a different.
And it was, you know, yeah. That's right. Also, but it was quite nice because there was a very long gap between the end of Roger's Saint and the beginning of mine. Many years. So it wasn't like a year and everybody had this distinct memory of Roger. It was to my advantage, really, that there was a long gap between the end. So this is why some people say I'm their saint. Other older people say, no, Roger was there. So it depends on your age, really. I mean, my friend Mike Smith, who is on now, I think Mike will agree with this, is for Mike, who was a kid when he was watching I was his saint, you know. For other people, Roger was. So it was it was a generational thing, really, as much
Yes,
as anything.
of course it was. Yes, yeah. But you did a hell of a job. Really.
Yeah, thanks.
I mean, this is sort of still reasonably early in the series in terms of its broadcast order. Did you find got settled in the role quite quickly, or did it take a while to sort of get your feet under the door?
Well, it's one of those parts, you know. It's one of those characters who is characterless. It's like any of them, any of those hero figures that are really what you make of them. So really what you're doing is you're playing an enhanced version of yourself. That's what you're doing. So in that sense, I just know I'm just playing me now, you know, who can do these things.
Yeah.
Right.
Thanks to the magic of film, I can do all sorts of wonderful things that I actually can't do in real life. So that's the thing about heroes. I mean, when you're playing a character role, it's more fun and more challenging in a way because you have to hide behind something. But as a hero, you're just yourself. You know?
Yeah.
So no, it wasn't difficult to do it or to step into it or anything particularly. I mean, no, it was pretty easy, really. I think.
Good. We're seeing that you're seen now with the brigadier, and you're being refused access to the records of the operation that you were involved with. Tony Steedman is the brigadier, known to people as in the professionals. Did Sweeney, still did Randall and Hopkirk and Avengers. Do you remember Tony as Steadman? Either of you?
Annette, you will, because you probably worked with him more often than I did.
Who was it?
Tony
The guy,
Steedman. Tony Steedman.
Steedman, yeah.
Oh yes, Tony. Yes.
Yeah.
He wasn't acting, was he?
He plays the brigadier in this particular episode. So it's a scene with
He had a
Ian.
very short scene, I think, didn't he, Philip? One little short
Oh
scene.
yes, I'm
Yeah.
remembering. Yes,
Yeah.
I'm remembering.
And he
Yeah.
was married to, and somebody's going to tell me who he was married to. Come on, anybody in the audience, tell me who Tony Steedman was married to. Quite somebody very famous, I think, as well. It'll come up in a second on the feed.
I'm sure
Somebody
people
will
are.
type it in.
Everyone's
Philip, do you
looking on
know
their
who he was married-
phones.
What?
Yes.
Everyone's checking on their phones. Who was
Everybody's checking on their phones. Who Tony Steedman is.
Possibly,
Yeah.
yes.
Yeah, we'll find out soon.
We just saw
Judy
Gerald.
Parfitt. Thank you, Rick. Thank you, Rick.
Oh, Judy.
Yes, he was married to
Parfitt.
Judy Parfitt. Yes, that's right.
Oh.
There we go. There we go.
Oh gosh, right.
Yes. Yeah.
We just
Blast
saw.
from the past.
We just saw Gerald Flood as Cleaver. Do either of you remember him? Because again, he was one of those people that did around the Hopkirk. A lot of people sort of went in and out of these shows. Any memories of Gerald Flood?
Of who?
Gerald Flood, who plays Cleaver, the
Gerald
villain of
Flood.
the.
Well,
Yes,
Gerald
yes.
was very famous from other things, of course, wasn't he?
Hmm.
He was a big English television star, so we were kind of lucky to get him. Yeah.
I worked with him in several things, actually, Gerald. Yeah. Yeah. I can't remember which things, but I remember we worked together a lot.
But Annette, how many Randall and Hopkirks did you do?
26.
Oh, the same number as the Saint, then, really? Yeah.
Yeah.
It should have. Both those shows should have gone on, shouldn't they? There was no
Oh,
reason.
absolutely. I've heard so many people say that. Why didn't you do a second series? But apparently, the story I heard was that they cancelled it because they wanted to sell it to America on it's national,
Hmm.
and it was syndicated. And they thought, oh, well, we won't bother.
Right.
And if they'd only known what was to come, with people still pouring in, you know, at all these shows. And it's amazing, just
Very
amazing.
short-sighted, all of it, I thought. Yeah.
It's a shame.
And I think Ian, it was from what I can gather, Lou Gray kind of losing interest in TV, wanting to move to film, and it kind of just sort of got
It
dumped.
was the most bizarre thing. We sold in something like 73 countries all over the world. Yes, it was very expensive, but the future episodes were not planned. We weren't planning to go abroad anymore. What cost the money in the first my show was we went to Italy and we went to France, and that was very expensive. I was told by the production manager that 75% of our budgets for each episode went on hotel costs and transportation. So, yeah. But in the future, we weren't going to have to do that. We'd got our audience. We could stay in England, and nobody would really mind at all. But no, you're right. Apparently, the story was that Lou Grade never particularly liked the show. He thought it was terribly expensive, overpriced, and he also was losing interest in his television productions anyway, and wanted to be a film producer. So he took all of his money out of his television and put it into a film production company, which he lost all of it, and was eventually taken over by a South African entrepreneur called Robert Holmes à Court, who took him over and literally fired Lord Grade out of his own company, which in a way was kind of schadenfreude for me. I must say, I rather enjoyed that, because I thought that the man had made a terrible mistake, and we were very popular and getting more so. So, but that was the way it was in those days.
Yes. We never went anywhere in Randall Hopkirk except the graveyard. And a couple of equally sort of interesting places.
Right.
But, we did have high hopes of doing a second series and maybe doing a couple of locations just to get Penny the ghost into another, lot of different other ghosts, which could have been quite fun. What's his name? Elaine. Who did Randall Hopkirk? Why is my mind gone?
Dennis Spooner.
Dennis Spooner, yes. Sorry, Elaine. Yes, Dennis was all for the idea. He loved the idea, doing it sort of different places and things like that. Never mind, it didn't go. Meanwhile,
So did you both think that because Randall Hopkirk, Return of the Saints kind of went very quickly, that the interest would also fade, and are you quite surprised that obviously it's stronger than ever in some respects?
Well, in those days, the interest never went any, or so it appeared. We never had merchandising. We never had this, that, and the other that they do now. And the idea of it traveling further than a couple of years in the future, none of them particularly did. Maybe a couple that went to America and were very successful might have. I mean, I've talked with other people about the fact that we are still going strongly. Our episodes are being shown all the time here, and I'm continually getting letters. I'm sure you do, and people wanting photographs or something like that. And I've said to many people, I would never have dreamed in a million years that there would be life after death.
Yeah.
So I take you for the same, Ian, that the popularity perhaps has taken you by surprise over the years.
Yeah, it is interesting, isn't it? It's curious, but this business about cancelling a show is extraordinary. I did about 5 or 6 Murder She Wrote with Angela Lansbury, and they cancelled Murder She Wrote when it was at the height of its popularity. Angela Lansbury was getting more fan mail at Universal Studios than anybody else, and the reason it was cancelled was that the demographics of the audience was wrong for the advertisers. Older people watched Murder She Wrote. They didn't want old people. Old people are set in their ways. Old people are going to use the same toothpaste they've used for the last 40 years. But the young minds can be changed. So they wanted a young audience. And so even very popular shows can sometimes be cancelled on the whim of the advertisers. Not with the Randall and Hopkirk, and it didn't happen with the Saint. That was just individual decisions by individual producers. But that's why a lot of extraordinary shows that get cancelled. It's just the demographics of the audience is wrong. That's all.
Right. I used to love. I thought Angela Lansbury was amazing, doing all her movies and things, and I loved that show. I thought it was terrific. Until today, I didn't realize that you'd done 5 of them.
Well, Angela was one of those lovely people. She dragged people out of retirement. She dragged old actors out of retirement and things. And if she liked you, you got a Murder, She Wrote every year. And she did that with me. I was just one of like a repertory. Also, the other extraordinary thing about Murder, She Wrote is you never ever had to do an audition for it.
Really?
You got the job on Angela's say so. Yes.
Right.
Same thing with Dick Van Dyke's Diagnosis Murder. I did about 4 of those as well. And again, there was no audition process. It was just done on word of mouth and things like that. Yeah.
Wonderful, wonderful. Because my husband, Arthur, he knew Angela and he wrote several of the Murder, She Wrote.
Oh, really? Oh, how cool. I wonder if I.
And I didn't know him then.
Right.
Otherwise, I'd have said, hey,
Yeah.
write me in. Yeah. Yeah, he got on with it very well.
We're seeing now, I've just seen your scene, Ian, at the army training, and you're having a struggle with Tony Vogel. Do you remember Tony at all?
Yeah, I think Tony, I have a feeling Tony and I were at drama school together. He was a little older than me, I think. I think, but I could be wrong about that. Again, somebody will check with Ford to see if Tony Vogel was at RADA in 1960, frozen to death. I can't remember what exact dates were. Yes, he was fine. Yeah. Yes, Tony, yes. Yes.
There's a message saying from Nick to everyone, Tony Vogel was Dick Barton just after, and then we don't see the rest of it.
I think you have to click on the message to sit to read
yes,
the rest.
just after this. So he then
Right.
went on to play Dick Barton. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. All those rough and tumble scenes are all, you know, a lot of fun. But I did get bruised quite a lot.
Oh, I'm sure. I always wanted to have something that I could do physical.
Yeah.
You know, when I was doing things and we were all doing things, the women didn't do that sort of.
Not in those days, did they? No. They got rescued, Annette, didn't they? Women, my American wife is outraged by some of these episodes because she says, "Look, women are just so goddamn helpless. Why are we all so helpless? Why do we all have to be rescued by idiots like you?"
I know. I know.
But your character in this episode was not a rescued person at all. You were a very strong character.
Yes, it was, and
Yeah.
I enjoyed that.
Yeah.
I did, yes. But by then it was starting to loosen up a little bit.
Yes.
And they'd had the Avengers and things. So
That's true. That's
they
true.
had the Avengers, me too. But no, they still. I had one fight scene in Randall and Hopkirk, which was very brief, with Alexandra Bastido.
Oh yeah.
It was such a tame little fight scene. I wanted to get into it, you know, fisticuffs and hurling them over and do all that. No.
Right.
It was in the or near the graveyard too.
Yeah.
And so many hours at that damn graveyard.
Right.
Yeah, I think for a lot of shows in the 60s, it didn't matter which locations were always about sort of 10 miles from the studio, weren't they?
Yeah.
Sort of no expense spared as long as it's all within 10-mile radius sort of thing.
Yes.
And here we are here. Yeah. And here we are with Ian Hendry, and he's on the HMS Belfast in London. So you're seeing kind of the progression of the budget. And Annette, did the episode, did your Return of the Saint feel quite different to the Saints with Roger Moore in terms of the production? I know a lot of key figures were the same, so did it feel kind of same?
No, it was different. It had quite a different atmosphere. And Ian had his way of playing it, which sets the atmosphere quite a lot, which wasn't hugely different, but it was your style and what you wanted to do, Ian, which was fine. But it was different to work in, and it was I don't know, the direction or the production itself was different, and I can't explain. I've only seen this episode once now, so it's hard to really. But there was a different feeling there.
Yes.
It wasn't just the laughing. A different.
Well, I'm sorry. I was sorry that I never did one of Roger's Saints as a guest. You know, that would have been kind of fun, really, wouldn't it?
It was fun.
but I never did one. So, you know, I don't have my own personal experience of doing one. You know?
Oh, well, there you are.
Yeah.
But I probably had a little try at getting you to giggle, but I don't think you did.
You made me sound so humorless, Anna.
No, it wasn't that at all. I don't think I tried very hard.
Okay.
We're seeing the car scene now of you, of Ian and Annette going off to find your son. I was wondering about what you guys thought about the Saints car, because again, a very distinctive part of the show, the vehicle. How did you both think of the car?
It was a car.
Well, nothing. Anything to Annette.
Yeah. What car was it? I know
it was a Jaguar XJS, which was the brand new, huge flagship kind of sport.
Yeah, it was very pretty. Did I actually ride in that?
Oh, yeah, I'm sure. Yeah.
Well, I enjoyed it. You see,
I liked it. I mean, it was a monster of a car. My friend Mike Smith, who is on here at the moment, owns it now. He will tell you the story. It's an extraordinary story. He found it because he was a fan of the show, and also his business is cars.
Oh, right.
He found it. Now he'll probably tell the story better than me, but the story is he did a lot of research. He couldn't find it. Eventually, he found it in a barn up in Scotland, in a Scottish island, I believe, up to its axles and rotting away in a barn.
Oh, really?
And he bought it, and he has spent all this time. He drives it, and he has completely restored it. In fact, at the moment, it's going through an even bigger restoration.
I read it in here.
Yeah, he takes it to the autograph shows and things, and it's actually a bigger star than I am when I go to these autograph shows. And he puts the car next to me. More people are much more interested in the car than they are in me.
They are, yes.
It was a magnificent car when it worked. The trouble with it was a prototype. And quite often little bits of it, not the engine was superb, but things like the windshield wipers would stop working in the middle of a rainstorm. And the air conditioning unit was rather odd. If you turned a corner too sharply, icy water would pour all over your feet. That's what I remember. I could be wrong about it. But it was a tremendous car, yes. It was very spectacular. It was a very beautiful car.
It was very
nice
beautiful.
It was an English car, you know, because it was nice that it was an English car.
Yes. But I read here, and he's put in. Is this the car that he's doing this major overhaul?
Yeah,
it costs him a huge amount, but it's worth a lot. Right.
So now I read here from him. He says, yeah, it's going through a $75,000 restoration right now, but it's insured for £1 million.
I read it.
Okay.
Yeah. I thought, whoa.
Yeah.
Someone actually found and got my Mini that I used to drive around in Hopkirk. And I know that, as far as I know, he's still got it. And I can't remember his name now. Mine was just a little Mini, you know.
Still has some value in it.
Sort of know that someone liked it.
Yeah.
Mike Smith is saying they actually changed the wipers on your
all
car.
the XJS's. First ones were so crap. Yeah, there you go.
Well, we're talking about items from shows. Have you guys ever kept anything from shows you've worked on during the years, scripts, or I suppose maybe couldn't think about that in those days, but any kind of mementos?
Annette, you go first, because I can't remember. I'm trying to think if I've kept anything.
I will just say very quickly, there was a quick note from Mike Smith there saying, my little Mini is worth 50K.
Right.
What was the question?
Oh, have you ever kept
any mementos from the shows?
Oh, nothing. If only I had known what the future would hold. I'd have kept every script. I'd have kept some clothing. I'd have kept, as it happens, I have nothing to sell or offer for, you know, they have donations and things. Nothing. I kept nothing. We just threw out the scripts and we did. No.
I kept one or two bits of clothing. There was rather which I liked a lot. There was a grey leather bomber jacket, like a denim jacket, but made in grey leather, which I kept for a bit and I wore quite a lot over the years. I don't have it anymore.
I think I kept a couple of things in terms of clothing, because they used to get my clothing from a house called, I think it was called Kojana or something like that. And some other things had beautiful clothes. I think I've got to keep a couple of them anyway. But you know, things that the fans ask for now. Do you have a script? Do you have this? You have nothing. It all went in the garbage bin.
I mean, yes, just different world. And of course, a lot of programs from the 60s and 70s also went in the bin with BBC wiping policies and things. Have either of you lost what work to those kind of short-sighted policies?
Yeah, I mean, one of the biggest things I ever did for the BBC, which is again was one of those ones that got wiped, was an extraordinary seminal production of Candide, Voltaire's Candide, where I played Candide with Frank Finlay as Voltaire. And it was an extraordinary thing because it was one of the very first times they used a green screen. It was very surrealistic all the way through. It was extraordinary production and very visionary, and should have been kept simply out of curiosity, really. But that's gone the way of all those things, all that overwriting of videotape. Videotape was more expensive than the shows it was recording.
Yes.
Was their theory. So they would record over the top of so much stuff, and a tremendous amount of it is lost.
I know.
Tragic, really. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, there's quite a lot of stuff I've done that I would be very happy for it to be lost, but not some of those BBC things. Yeah.
I know some of them were very, very good. I did quite a lot too, and they've gone. You know, yeah, such a shame.
And I think sometimes it was also a matter of storage as well, because the tapes will obviously took a lot of space. So I think it's also that as well. I mean, is there anything that you talking about things that you are perhaps less proud of? Is there certain shows and things that you don't kind of like?
Well, Philip, it's in the nature of things that we're less proud of for us to forget them.
So you kind of
it's hard for us to remember things of which we're less proud.
Yes,
I think you're right, because my mind has gone blank, but I know there were quite a few.
Yes.
A blank page.
No,
there was nothing I wasn't proud of. Proud of everything.
But you see, the other thing about it is Annette and I went through the golden age of television. It was when we would go from job to job to job. We'd do a theatre bit in between, maybe, or a bit of radio here and there. But television was our bread and butter. And if you were reasonably well known and reasonably successful, you worked constantly. So quite a lot of jobs that you've done have really, you forget them because they weren't so eventful, you know. It wasn't a big event in your life.
Yes.
It was just another job. So I think we were very lucky, Annette, because, you know, I know there's a tremendous amount of wonderful stuff being made now. All these things on Netflix and you know, HBO and all those things are just staggering money, and they look wonderful and watched it. But curiously, there's less work around, I think, for actors than there was in our day. And I think we were very lucky to have gone through that wonderful period.
Yes.
When from 6 o'clock at night, there was the news. Then all the way through to midnight, you mostly watched actors acting.
Yes.
You watch cooks cooking, you watch gardeners gardening, you watch people behaving badly at home. You know, it's not the same. And it was a lovely time for actors, I think, anyway.
Oh, it was. No, I think of it, I mean, with glowing, I remember it was just an amazing time. It really was. And also they tolerated older people.
Yeah, yes.
You know, but they had the young ones as well. And now, certainly in America, they do not tolerate anyone over 40.
No, that's right.
You know, after that you're dead.
Yeah.
And I used to go around saying, but you know, how old was your mother? You mean you're not going to have a mother in this? You know.
Yeah.
One of another where both your careers intersected was working on the Avengers. I was just wondering what working on a show like the Avengers was compared to something like Return of the Saint.
Did you do? How many? Did you do more than one Avengers, Annette?
I did one Avengers with
Yeah.
Patrick, and I did one of the new Avengers.
Right. You're right.
Hmm. I can't, but I loved working with Patrick.
Yes, he was lovely, wasn't he?
Yeah. The other one I didn't enjoy very much.
Yes, the one I did was Linda Thorson was the leading lady on that one.
Oh,
my
yeah.
hair was bleached blonde because I was playing a German baron. all German barons have blonde hair, apparently. Anyway, and it was ridiculous. And I remember there was an extraordinary stuntman on it, with whom I had to have a sword fight. And I had learnt fencing at my drama school, like one did. You know, I knew how to fence reasonably well. I could. And this man came at me, and it was quite obvious he'd never held a sword in his life. And
Oh
it was
my gosh.
incredibly dangerous because he was just slashing away at me.
Whoa.
And I said, guys, stop. I don't think he knows how to do this. And he said, no, I've never held a sword in my life, which is odd for a stuntman, isn't it, really? But otherwise, it was great fun. I remember Patrick was lovely. Patrick was one of those extraordinary actors who was incredibly famous. From the day you arrived on the set, Patrick came up to me and said, hello, how do you do? My name is Patrick McNee. How lovely to welcome you to the show. Yeah. My name is Patrick McNee. He was probably the most famous actor in England at the time. Yeah. It showed a sweet and charming modesty, and I liked him very much. I worked with him since here in America. I did 2 things with him in the States as well.
Yeah. Did you?
Yeah.
I knew him personally after I did that, re-met him again, and he often came around when I was sharing a house with Sue Lloyd, my friend.
Right.
He'd come around sometimes and say, oh, I just feel like coming in for a little bit of a chat. You know, he was very shy. He was very,
yes,
not, you know, very withdrawn, not withdrawn, but he'd just come because he felt comfortable, I think, with us, and he'd have a cup of tea.
Also, 2 extremely beautiful young ladies. I suspect Patrick would quite enjoy your company, for heaven's sake. Sue Lloyd and Annette Andre. Sue Lloyd and Annette Andre. What? Oh no, I don't want to do that. No, I can't be bothered. No, I think quite honestly, that was a lot of the attraction was you 2 guys. You know?
Thank you. Yes, well, maybe it was.
Yeah. I was wondering if you guys had any more memories of director Roy Ward Baker that you'd wish to share.
Sorry, say that again.
I wonder if you had any more memories of director Roy Ward Baker that you'd like to share.
I did a horror film with him, which was fun. He was an odd man because I liked him very, very much, but a lot of people mistook he had a very dour, glum, gloomy outlook to him. He doesn't smile very often until you realize that underneath it all, he was having a lovely time and was laughing like a drain.
I know.
Yeah, you know, but he on first contact with Ray, you thought, oh, what a glum chap, but he wasn't at all glum at all. He was very good director too, by the way. Very good.
I thought he was very good. I loved working. I worked with him 2 or 3 times, I think.
Yeah.
And just as you say, yes, he had this sort of, you know, rather glum look, and I used to go up. We'd have such a laugh together and make fun of different things. But he was also a hell of a director.
Very good.
Yeah.
Also, he knew when to leave you alone. You know, he's one of those nice directors who you know, if he respected what you did and thought you were okay, he'd leave you alone, just let you get on with it, which is I think the best kind of direction.
Yeah, no, that was good. Or he'd take you aside and say, "What do you think about?" Really very nice.
Yeah, lovely.
I loved him. Yeah.
I also want to mention production manager Malcolm Christopher, whether you guys remember Malcolm at all.
Oh yes.
There's a lovely story about Malcolm Christopher. He was our production manager, a lovely man, but a very harassed man. It was an enormous job because it was an enormous job if we just stayed in England, but it was an enormous job also going to Italy and France and coping with all that. And we had a wonderful stunt coordinator called Les Crawford.
Oh, Les, I knew very well.
Yeah, and Les was mad as a hatter, absolutely barking mad. Oh. And Les went into one day to Malcolm Christopher. He said, "Well, I've got the car. I bought the cars that we need." And Malcolm said, "What do you mean, Les? You bought the cars?" He said, "Well, we need a Mini, we need a van, and we need a little bus, don't we? So I went and bought them." And Malcolm said, "Les, you're not in a position, you can't go out and buy cars for the production company. For heaven's sake, are you absolutely mad? He said, well, I'm sorry, but we need them. So we just went on for a long time until eventually Les reached into his pocket and pulled out 4 Matchbox cars that are the ones he you know.
I like him a
Les
lot.
would do, but Malcolm would tell that story against himself, being suckered in by Les Crawford.
Yeah. Oh,
He's
he
a very hardworking man, Malcolm, and a very nice guy. I liked him very much.
was a nice guy. Yes,
Yeah.
he was. And
Again, you didn't see too much of him because he was an office person, and you
yeah.
were outside in front of the cameras, weren't you? So you know,
Yeah, exactly.
you just
I used
knew
to
the
have to
job
go
he
and
was
see
doing.
him occasionally to discuss something or other. He was always very nice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm.
But Les, because I worked with him quite a bit because of working on the Saints so much, and also he did a couple of things on Randall Hopkirk, I think, and there were other things. And we used to chat quite a lot, you know, we were off. And I can't remember what it was. He started talking about one point, and you know, he was really well built, and I said to him, why are you eating that, or don't you? He said, oh, I don't eat sugar at all. I said, you don't? He said, no. He said, about 3 or 4, up to about 3 years ago, he said, I weighed 17 stone.
Whoa.
And he showed me a photograph.
Yeah.
And he said, I had to do something about it. And I went off sugar.
There you go. Boom.
Yeah.
That's the way.
And then another time, when I did the Persuaders, and over in Cannes, and in Nice rather, and I had a day off, and I think Les must have too, because we were chatting. He said, I'm thinking of going somewhere. I said, oh yeah, okay. And he said, do you want to go? I said, where? He said, let's go to Monte Carlo. So he got in the car. I'd been talking about the Corniche. And I said, gosh, that's some ride. He said, oh. He said, we'll go to Monte Carlo. So we got in the car, went up to Monte Carlo. I think we did a bit of gambling and came home again. And he drove those curves in the Corniche. My heart was standing still, but he was very good. I don't think Bob Baker would have been too happy if we'd known that we'd both gone off there.
Well, that brings us nicely to Robert S. Baker, Bob Baker. Do you remember any memories again that you'd like to share?
My favorite memory of Bob Baker was we were down in the south of France, and it was the very first episode. We were going to start shooting the next day. We'd arrived in the south of France about 2 days, and we were going to start shooting the next day. And Bob Baker takes me aside, and he said, Ian, tomorrow when you start, he said, just remember, not too English. And I thought, well, this is a bit of first of all, I don't understand it. Secondly, you could have said this to me about 6 months ago when I first got the job. And I didn't really understand what he was talking about. And not too English. So I think for the first couple of episodes, Bob wasn't all that happy about it. And then one day when I was doing a scene with Gail Honeycutt, for some bizarre reason, I thought I wanted to make her laugh or make the crew laugh. So what I did was, when my line came up, I did a very bad impersonation of Cary Grant. And for some reason, they kept it. And Bob that night saw the dailies, he saw the rushes, and he came running up to me. He said, that's it. So then afterwards, I did this bad impersonation of Cary Grant all the way through the show. And one critic said, poor Ian Ogilvy, why he's doing a bad impersonation of Cary Grant is anybody's bit. The reason why is because Bob Baker said not too English. That's the reason.
I must admit, the first time I saw Return of the Saint, I did think not a bad Cary Grant, but I did hear that's the first thing that came to me was it sounded like Cary Grant. Yeah,
that was
Yeah.
the story. That's the true story of why I did it like that. Probably a bad idea, really.
He was a lovely man, Bob.
Yeah,
He really was.
So he was shy. He never looked you in the eye, did he? He was a rather shy man. He sort of, yeah.
Yes, he was.
Yeah, but very nice and supportive and everything. Yeah.
Yes, he was. Yeah. I think, I can't remember exactly, but I think at some point I said something about Monty Berman to him. and it wasn't, I was annoyed with Monty or about something or other. And Bob just sort of said, and laughed.
Yeah, yeah. I agree with you, but I can't in public. Yeah.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
Well, one of the things that you guys have in common is wonderful TV themes. So, of course, Annette, the Prisoner, Around the Hopker, The Avengers, The Persuaders. And I think what really strikes you when you see Return of the Saint is how good the opening credits are and the theme music. Seeing it again, is that something that you think is a really strong element of the show?
Yes, I think it was a good theme. I had a girlfriend after the Saint who would sing the other one. She would sing Roger Moore's at me. Yeah, I think it was a good show. I think oh God, now I'm drawing on the guy's name.
Oh, just like me.
Steve Coogan.
Yeah.
Steve Coogan did a very funny thing on his show, Alan Partridge show, where he actually turns on the My Saint theme music in his car and is drumming to it. I'm not quite sure. I have a feeling Steve Coogan rather either liked the show or thought it was so ridiculous he would one day parody it or have fun with it. But yes, it's in a Steve Coogan episode of Alan Partridge where he sits in his car while his assistant goes off and lays flowers on a grave. And he sits in his car and plays the Saint theme.
Did you like the theme, Annette, of the show?
Oh yes, yes, I did. Yeah, but I think that the themes in those days were brilliant, particularly the British ones. I think that the English for theme music is and was, I don't know whether it still is, just absolutely wonderful. My Arthur, my husband, always said, the British, you can't beat them on theme music. And I think so too. It was always different, but it had a definite character. They were brilliant at it.
I mean, it's what brings you into a show at the beginning, isn't it? It's what grabs you or doesn't. And the shows that are my favourites do have strong music, and it's such an important relationship with the series, and of course the credits as well. John Scott, of course, was one of the main composers for Return of the Saint. Did you encounter John Scott at all, Ian?
No.
No. I did meet him. I did meet him
and if I did, I don't remember.
I did meet him at a convention a few years ago. It's never been officially announced, but I'm pretty sure he has passed away a few years ago. It's one of those things that sadly I think got unreported. But he was
embarrassing if he's watching this, wouldn't it?
Well, it would be lovely if he was still around. But he was not. It was not unwell, but not great when I was at the event. So he was a lovely gentleman. I wanted to just to ask, having seen the episode again after many years, how does it sit in your Saints? First of all, Ian, do you think it's in the tops part of it? How do you rate this episode?
It's strange, really, that the episodes I remember most fondly, oddly enough, are all the Italian and the French ones. Partly because it was such an event being there, and secondly because of the scenery and all the rest of it. The English ones sort of squished themselves together into one long Southall Gasworks episode. I don't really remember the English ones that well. My favorite episode, everybody who knows me on this, my favorite episode has always been the one set in Venice, partly because I think I had it was just such fun, and the script was good, and it was just a joy to be in Venice shooting there. So this episode, I mean, having watched it, I think it's a very perfectly respectable, splendid show. But rating it, I didn't really rate them. I'd never rated any of them really. I just want the ones I like from a personal point of view, But whether I think it's a good enough episode. I think it's made tremendously good by Ian Hendry and Annette Andre, to be honest. and Rupert Graves.
Yes.
Rupert Graves. Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
and Annette, where would you kind of put this in your body of work? Is it something that you're quite proud to be associated with this?
Well, yes, I
person
think
saying?
so. I was
What
lucky.
else can she say, poor girl?
Yes, I had to say it. No.
Yes.
No, I was given an opportunity in this episode to play something a little different,
Hmm.
and that pleased me.
Yeah.
To be a mother and to play that more sober side and anger and.
I think actually, Annette, you might have been probably the only mother in the entire Saint series as a leading lady. You were probably the only mum. I don't remember any other mums at all.
Oh well,
So
I stand out then.
I have a feeling you have a very special place in this show.
Oh, the leading mum.
The leading mum, yeah.
I like that. Okay.
So, somebody on here will tell us whether or not there were other mums, but I don't remember any others.
Oh,
not,
yes,
not as the leading lady, no.
Yeah, not as a leading lady. Yeah.
And again, as I say, it's a strong character. It's not a damsel in distress. You have a very good sort of story arc in it. In terms of getting the role, I assume you were one of the faces that everybody knew, and they wanted just to sort of bring as many people from the original shows, of course, production wise, but also actors as well. So I suppose it just kind of landed on your lap as an episode for you.
You're talking to me.
Oh yeah, yes. Sorry, Nat. Yes.
Yes, I was just my agent phoned. Would you like to do blah blah blah? I said, yeah, absolutely. She said, oh, Ian O was doing. I said, it's all right. I know Ian. We've worked together before. Can't remember what we worked in.
No, I can't either, Annette. It's so funny.
But it was
Again,
something
might come
before
up with that, but I don't remember what it was either.
Because I knew you when I went into
Yeah.
And then, of course, we worked later on.
That's right. Yeah.
Looking back at it again, is there any particular moments that stand out or scenes you think are either very effective in terms of your moments, or perhaps just as for the characters in the story?
No. Nothing stands out for me again, because again, it was one of the British episodes, and I think I do remember, odd enough, is how little time I actually spend with Annette, because normally, the leading lady and I would be the pair, doing something. But Annette's storyline runs parallel to mine, really, and of course we meet, but it's not something, she had her own stuff to do, which was kind of nice for her.
Yes, that's true. You're right. I hadn't thought of it that way, but yes, you're right. And I just remembered Ian's face when he's talking to the boy. That touched me a lot. Actually.
Ian Hendry, you're talking about.
Ian, yes. Oh yes, Ian Hendry. Sorry, Ian.
Because the only boy I think I talked to was it? Did I talk to the kid, or did I just talk to Rupert Graves? I can't remember.
Yes, you have a nice scene in the barn. Where you're trying.
Yes.
And that I think is quite well played.
Yeah. I remember. Yes.
And I think perhaps another really good scene is Ian Hendry and yourself, Ian, when you're in your apartment and you're talking for the first time, and then of course at the end where he wants you to kill him, and you won't do it, and the frustration of him, and you want to save him, and the conflicts going on in him, I think, as well as a character of wanting to live.
Henry's show. It was his show, really, and it was a much more serious show than some. It dealt with much more problematic things than most of ours, really, and that made it an interesting show, I think.
Yes, I think so too. I do.
I think The Saint is one of those shows that has such a palette, doesn't it, of different types of stories. So the more serious, like we have here, the more adventurous, And I think we were saying this when we did the event with you, Annette. We did one for House of Dragons Rock, and that was about a giant ant. It was something like out of 50 science fiction.
I know, it was hardly
Yeah.
serious.
Very different to what you wouldn't even think that necessarily would sit in the Saint sort of vocabulary, but of course it lends itself so well to different stories.
It was just, yeah, it was just a totally different thing from the usual Saints. And I think that Roger and I laughed ourselves through the entire thing, particularly when we found the eggs.
Oh, yes. And
You know that story, Ian?
No.
No. We have a scene where the giant ant is, and we find the nest where she's, because we have to destroy it all, or she'll destroy everyone. And Roger goes up first, he finds the nest and he looks, and he turns around to me and he says to the crew, "Hold it, stop." We look around, he said, "We'll finish in a minute." He said to me, "Come." And I walked up and he said, "Look at the eggs. There's a nest of eggs." And all the eggs had the Lion brand on them.
How sweet.
We couldn't stop laughing.
That's funny.
And then the whole crew, I don't know who had done it, but they had worked it out and done it. It was wonderful. So, yeah.
Yeah.
And Roger directed that episode. Were you ever tempted, Ian, to get behind the camera, or would, if it had gone on, would you have liked it?
Yes, I said to Bob Baker, I said, "When do I get to direct?" He said, "Second series." As an irony.
Yeah.
Yes, I did. I did a little second unit directing on one of them, which was fun. They said, "Go on, you go off and you can do this." It was about mortars landing on the grass. It was very difficult to do, actually. But anyway, yes, I did a little bit of that. Yes, I was planning on it, and but didn't happen.
And is directing something that you've ever been interested in, Annette? Would you like to have been more involved in behind the scenes sort of stuff?
No, I didn't. I used to look around at the harassed faces of the directors sometimes. Various other, I thought, I don't think so. But in later years, I have thought to myself, I think maybe I would have liked to have been able to direct at some point, but I'm not sure that I really had the nerve or the whatever it is you need for it. Oh, I think I'd have had the nerve, but I doubt it myself very much.
Yeah.
So I left it to everyone else. But if I'd had my way, I would have given myself some very good roles. Anna, you would have been in it too, Ian.
Thank you, darling. Thank you.
Just going to have a look at audience questions, just sort of to wrap up the evening. Let's have a look at anything that I think a lot of it we probably already covered, but just to see if there's anything that we need to talk about.
Somebody's written here, Annette holds the record for most female guest appearances on The Saint. Did you know that, Annette? I'm sure you did.
Yes,
wow, that's a cool record, that is, isn't it?
Yeah, is it?
Yeah, fabulous.
I had no idea at the time,
Yeah.
But yes, apparently. That was a good time. Bob Baker said, sometimes Roger will say to me, "Let's get Annette in, we need a laugh." See the talent I had.
All right, has anybody got any questions, do you think?
Just have a little look. One thing I was quite interested in, I've discussed this briefly with Annette, but just the difference between working on TV, on videotape versus film. I don't know if you've got any comments about that, Ian.
Well, videotape, you did more like a play. You see, you used to go off and rehearse the entire show in rehearsal rooms. You'd rehearse it like a play, and then you would shoot the scenes from start to finish without cuts, because the cameras would be set up, pedestal cameras. That's how it was done. And in a way, it was, if you were a theatre trained actor, it wasn't a problem particularly. They shoot American soap operas, well, they used to. I was on an American soap opera for about 9 months. It was all done like that. So, although, except what it didn't have is it didn't have the rehearsal. So you would go straight in and pretty much start shooting and hope for the best. But you would run a scene from start to finish. And on film, of course, it's all cut up into little pieces. So it's a different business. It's a different way of doing it.
Yeah. Well, I had a lot of experience with the taped and recorded things as well. You know, things could go wrong. But also I had the added advantage. It was a good learning thing because I was in Australia and we didn't have television until the mid-50s or something. And I actually did the second play ever to be produced on television live with 2 characters, and it went well until there were only 2 characters in it, so they had 2 like quick change things and a gardener going around with a gardening thing while the music played and I was getting dressed. And into my change, one of the changes, I had 2 of them, it was long dress, you know, it was a historical thing. And the dresser had the clothes ready and I ran off stage. She said, quick, we took it off, put the other dress on. And she went, oh God, oh God. I said, what's the matter? She said, the zip's stuck. I can't get it up. And I said, oh. And of course the music and the assistant directors, they're saying, go, go, go. I said, leave it. And I ran, I walked back on and I did. And I had my back to the actor and he was playing the scene from behind me. And he suddenly called me by my own name instead of the character name because he'd seen the zip hanging way down here. And all I wanted to do was laugh, and you can't, you're live.
Yes, you're
I kind of chokingly responded. And that is an experience to do it live on television, an hour's play or more. Yeah, not a lot of people in today's world have ever done live plays, I don't think, because they, you know, it was, I'm sure that it started here so early, television in England and America, that all that had gotten out of the way and they were recording most of the time.
I only ever did one live television, and it was done as an experiment long after live television had stopped, and it was done as a sort of what fun it would be. You know, of course, it wasn't fun; it was awful, it was horrible.
Yeah, it was. I was too young to sort of think about it very much. I just went on and did it all, and then the zip, and I thought, well, nothing I can do about it. Yeah.
I have got a question from Rick. He asks, do both of you like watching your appearances, or, you know, either at the time or afterwards, or do you find it cringeworthy when watching, in brackets, hopefully not the latter, as you were both great?
Thank you very much. And the answer is I hate it. I don't like it because I don't think I look at myself and I'm thinking, why wasn't I better? You know, and of course the answer why I wasn't better was because, you know, I just wasn't. That's all there is to it. No, I don't enjoy watching myself at all. Not at all.
I don't particularly at the time, but I've realized in later times when I've been asked to look back on something, I've looked at it. There was one I did that I thought I really did a bad job in that. And I've seen it recently. It's no secret, it was The Prisoner. And I hated it. I hated every minute of it, and I hated Patrick and the whole thing. And I thought I'd given a terrible performance. And I never watched it until recently. I had to do one of these. And I watched the episode and I thought, actually, I didn't do too bad a job.
I know, it's funny that, isn't it? Yeah.
You know why? Because I hated Patrick and I hated the way he worked with me. And it spurred me on. I thought, you're not going to do that to me.
Right.
No. So sometimes in later years, you can look at something and you can see some parts are, if not all of it, I like to think all of it's great, but but some parts you'll find and you say, actually, that wasn't too bad.
Right. That's right. Yeah, true.
A question from Mike Smith. Did you Annette get your perm before the show, or did they have it for did you have it for the show?
Get the what?
Your hairstyle, your perm, was that something that you would have at the time, or did they just give your character
so this, no, I
hairstyle? Yeah,
I had it at the time. For the first time in my life, I went, all
big hair.
Big hair.
Big hair.
I think it wasn't going very well, and I thought, oh hell, just have it done like this. But it was actually, it was different, and it was different for the character. I mean, it gave me a different character.
Oh yeah. And Matthew F has asked, any stories from I, Claudius?
Apart from being very proud of being in it, and I knew the director very well, Herbie Wise, who directed it. And Herbie was one of those directors who liked having a repertory of actors, familiar actors he liked working with. And I was part of that repertory company in a way. I'd done several things with Herbie beforehand. And I was able to call him up and say, Herbie, I hear you're doing I, Claudius. And he went, yes. I said, can I be in it? He said, yes. I said, can I play Caligula? He said, no. I said, why can't I play Caligula? He said, because John Hurt's playing. And I went, oh, well, okay, fine. Okay. What can I play? He said, you can play Claudius's dad. Probably the only sane Roman in the entire series, the only sane man. And he said, it's a very nice part. It's a couple of episodes at the very beginning of the show, and you're Derek Jacobi's father. And to this day, Derek calls me dad when I meet him.
That's nice.
That's funny.
Frederick asks, Ian, what was it like working with Boris Karloff?
Oh, a joy. He was a very dear man who was game for anything, and very funny man. Once we were sitting waiting for a cue outside, we were just sitting there waiting for somebody to give us the cue to go on, and it seemed to be taking a long time, and Boris turned to me and said, I shall probably be dead by the time they give us the cue. He was a sweetheart and lovely. And again, a lot of people ask me about working with Boris. If you look at this, it's like working with Vincent on Witchfinder General. I didn't really. Boris and I had a scene at the beginning of the film, and after that, once we'd separated, we didn't really work again during the course of the our stories run parallel. Same with Vincent Price and me in Witchfinder General. I worked with Vincent at the beginning of the film, at the end of the film. The rest of it, we didn't work together at all. But Boris was a lovely man and very dear, and he was not well at the time. He was terribly old. There was a story that the sound man went to the director and said, there's something odd about Boris. Every time he moves, we're picking up a squeak on our microphones. So he's squeaking every time he moves. Could you do something about it? So the director, Mike Reeves, went to Boris and said, Boris, apparently you're squeaking when you move. And Boris laughed, and he pulled his trouser leg up, and he had a steel brace that supported his knee and ankle. He'd had broken it sometime. And he said, bring me the 3-in-1. So they brought him a can of oil. Literally oiled his leg. It was a Frankensteinian moment, really. When you think about
that's wonderful. Yeah. Oh, that's wonderful.
He's a nice guy, Boris. Yes, I liked him very much.
Oh, how lovely. I didn't know you'd worked with him. Yeah. Gosh.
One of the few people left alive, Annette, probably, who worked with Boris Karloff. I probably am.
Yes, you probably have. Oh.
And of course, Annette, you worked on a funny thing happened on the way to the forum. It was
with Buster Keaton.
Buster Keaton, yes, that's right. Do you want to perhaps share anything about Buster Keaton?
Oh, Buster was, I mean, when he came on the set, the director, God, so well known, and I know his name and it's gone. Anyway,
Richard Lester.
Richard Lester, that's him. Yes, he got down on the ground and went, thank you for coming. And Buster, because in the end, it turns out that I'm his daughter, his long lost daughter. And he would call if I wasn't working and I'd be sitting on the set. I'd hear him say, where's my daughter? Get my daughter, I want to talk to her. and we'd sit and chat and do, and he was just the loveliest man. And that was his last movie.
Yeah.
He died a few months later.
Elaine Spooner asks Ian, do you know Steve Coogan has seen that clip of you doing the impression of Alan Partridge drumming to Return of the Saint music in the car?
No, but I would love him to. I think it's just funny what he does, and the fact that he picked that piece of music, and he must have had a reason for it. But somebody pointed it out to me. In fact, somebody referred me to it. Have a look at this clip, and it made me laugh like a dragon, because I always thought he was one of the funniest men on television.
Oh yeah, yeah.
I love his stuff. He's very clever, and his Alan Partridge is superb creation. I mean, it's a dreadful, ghastly creation. It's up there with David Brent from The Office, you know. I think, in terms of creating a dreadful, horrible character, but very funny at the same time. It's not easy to make people laugh when you're a beast, you know. It's very hard. And they've both those guys managed it. So no, I don't think he has ever seen me doing that, but I can watch him doing it forever.
And I want I've got another question. Has there been any skill that you've had to learn during your careers that has really benefited you, perhaps outside of your career, or something that's stayed with you that you're really happy to have?
Annette?
I can't think. I haven't thought of anything like that, so it's gone.
I can do scuba diving for you. I learned scuba diving on the Saint from Les Crawford, the stunt coordinator that we were talking about. Of course, I wasn't certified to do it, but I was doing it all over the place, and I loved it. And I went on and did it a lot privately as a sort of a hobby thing, which I enjoyed enormously. Yeah. So that scuba diving I learned on the show. I suppose no, I don't think anything else I've used particularly. I was a horse rider before that. I was also a motorcycle rider before that, so I didn't have to learn any of that. But the scuba diving was something that was needed, and he gave me a quick lesson in it, and then went ahead. We did it. So that in the scuba diving sequences, that is me.
Right. Good. I can't recall really having learned it, because I was a rider, so I had to ride, not in any of the episodes, but other things I had to ride, so I was all right.
As you said, Annette, you know, girls didn't do, you know, girls got rescued, didn't they?
Yes, exactly.
They were not doing the rescuing.
That's what I learned to do, was to have my hands tied up and shut my mouth. That was what I learned to do. Not easy.
And the final question, just about stunts. I know Annette, on A Funny Thing, you had some hair-raising moments with the horses, and I think in the
oh yes,
that sequence.
Yes, there was. I did. I suppose I learned something on that, and that was to not do anything so stupid again. Which was, we had a chariot sort of chase. And of course, the second unit did most of it, but then we had to come in and do things. It was a very funny chase, and I've ever seen it. And Michael Crawford and I were in this chariot with two or four, I think it was four, matched greys. Anyway, Dick Lester said, "Look, I'm shooting from behind," because we had a stunt man in the chariot with us on the ground, and he had little hole that he could see through, and he was driving the horses through that, because, you know, it's quite a thing to be able to drive a chariot. And we were then behind him, but he said, "Now we're shooting and we can see into the chariot." And I was in the chariot on my own, because Michael had fallen off at this point. And I said, "Well, I'll do it." And he said, "Do you think you can?" I said, yes, I've been riding for years. I said, "I can do this." So they give me the reins and they tell me a couple of things. I said, "Okay, fine." And we're going through woods, lots of trees and things, you know. So we take off, and they're going at quite a pace, and that was all right. And I'm sitting there, I'm standing, I'm doing. Suddenly, they literally take the bit, and I don't know whether something frightened them or not, I don't know. And they shot off, or they realized that I wasn't that strong, and they shot off. And we're going, careering through all these trees and things. And I saw a tree coming up, and I thought, this is it, I've had it. One's going to go that way, one's going to go that way. They didn't. They swerved. Meanwhile, thankfully, the stunt guys have jumped on their horses. And as I'm going along, sort of thinking, what am I going to do? Mick Dillon on one of the, he was a stuntman, and he on one of the horses, and I think it was Frank Marr and another one or something or other. And they come up beside me and said, don't worry, we've got you. And the next thing, one of them jumps from his horse onto the back of one of the chariot horses, and he pulls them up, and we come to a stop. I honestly, they said to me, you could have had it in that one. You really could have gone. I decided I wouldn't drive a chariot again. That's the one thing I learned. Yeah. My God. But, you know, Dick Lester was quite keen on doing what you could do.
Yeah.
And we were up on, Michael and I were climbing a temple. We were inside the temple and sort of had corners and went up hugely high. Had been built before. And there's a hole in the roof. And Michael's supposed to save me from the sacrificial table. And he pulls me up, and all I've got to hold on to is a thin wire, because you could see it through. They couldn't put it through my costume because it was almost see-through-ish, you know, it was chiffony. And so they thread this wire, like a fuse wire, through my hair and give me a little loop like that, just to, no, I had hold of Michael's supposed toga, that was a little handle. But they thread this down to my foot, and they said, they put it over one foot, and they said, now, as you're going up, you can just, don't put all the weight on it, but you can just help yourself a little bit till you get to the top. Meanwhile, I'm going up, and it's the line is turning. And as you go up, it gets hotter because of the lights. And I did it 4 times. They kept stopping and saying, come down again. The 4th time, we're going up, and this heat, I thought, I'm losing control. I'm going to faint in a minute, because the heat was unbelievable, and I'm turning, twisting. And Dick calls out to me in the middle of this. He says, look down and smile. And he said, you've got to smile. I think it was Pamela Brown at the bottom. And I'm looking down, and I'm getting more and more woozy and more ready, because nothing would have saved me. Yeah. We had no nets, we had nothing. And I finally got, and Michael grabbed hold of my wrists, and then we got out. Then we had to traverse the outside, but that's another story.
Yeah.
I mean, he had us doing very, very weird things. Mind you, I was young and I quite enjoyed it, but a couple of times I could have been dead.
Any hair raising stories like that, Ian, or stunt wise, or you're quite lucky?
Not really, no. There was a question here about, did we enjoy doing our own stunts? Annette will agree with me here. We didn't do our own stunts. We did our own action.
Yes.
A stunt by definition is something that is so dangerous that it can only be done by a stuntman, like being set on fire or jumping off a cliff onto cardboard boxes 100 feet below. You know, actors who say they do their own stunts aren't really telling you the truth, apart from Michael Crawford, of course, who had it in his contract he could. But most of the time we didn't. And at the beginning of The Saint, I wanted to be all macho and butch and all this, and I wanted to do my own stuff. And eventually the stuntman took me aside and said, you're being a bit of a prick, Ian, you know, because you're actually denying my boys work. Not only that, but if you fall and hurt yourself, shooting shuts down and everybody's out of a job. and it's frankly irresponsible of you. And frankly, why don't you take the opportunity and sit down and have a rest while we do the job and make you actually look better than you do? Everybody will think it's you. So I learned a valuable lesson, and that was, no, if somebody says, can you do that stunt? If it is a stunt, you say, no, that is a stunt. If it's action, like riding a horse, you can do a fight scene. This is all action. Those aren't really stunts. So I have this big bee in my bonnet about this business about actors doing their own stuff. Tom Cruise and Michael Crawford are probably the only people who insurance companies are forced to allow them to do stunts. That's the other side of it. The insurance companies won't let you, you know? So it's as simple as that. Yes, I mean, I was amazed, Annette, that they let you do that. But then again, that's Dick Lester, isn't it? So you know,
and it was amazing that he let me do that.
Yeah,
I mean,
but I mean, had you been hurt or anything, you know, that's the end. Production shuts down.
I know. And
I was once asked. I was once asked by a director, "Can you jump off this wall?" I said, "Yes, I can do it, but I'm not going to, because if I hurt myself, then the production shuts down. Everybody's out of a job, and I'm not popular." I said, "You just pull the camera back another 15 feet and let the stuntman do it, and everybody will think it's me." So, you know, I started being quite sort of, no, I'm not doing it. And I realized that it wasn't anything to do with being macho or butch or masculine or anything.
No,
like
it was
just sensible, you know.
Yeah, absolutely. No, I think I was so young and was my first big movie, and I just wanted everything, you know, and Dick was, and Michael loved, you know, we worked out.
Well, it was his thing, wasn't it? Particularly on that show.
I was dragged along and I was given the opportunity, which was a strange thing. And so you say, oh yes, I wasn't even thinking, you know, of anything. Well, no one did. A lot of funny things went on.
Well, I think that's probably a very nice place to leave it. Thank you very much, Ian and Annette, for joining me to share so many wonderful memories about your careers in general and the Return of the Saint. It's been really, really enjoyable. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. We had fun. Nice to see you again, Annette.
Oh, and you too, Ian. Lovely, actually. Maybe when you're over here, we'll get together and have a drink or something.
All right. Lovely.
Okay.
Okay.
Bye.
Thanks so much. Take care, guys.
Bye, Philip. Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.